So thank you once again, dear participants. And as I've been introduced, I work for the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority as the Director in charge of electricity and renewable energy. I've served in the energy sector in Kenya now for 28 years. And I'm very much happy on behalf of EPRA to be invited to share with you today the state of renewable energy adoption in Kenya. And that will be my presentation outline. I hope you people are seeing it. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, you're able to see your screen, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the presentation layout, I'll talk briefly about EPRA so that maybe you understand where we come from. Then I'll give a very brief introduction of the topic we are discussing today. Then I'll talk about hydropower, geothermal, wind, solar, biomass, waste to energy. Then I'll talk about our current installed capacity in this country. Then our energy contribution from the various sources. Then I'll touch briefly on the off-grid renewable energy deployment. Then I'll talk about our focus as a country in renewable energy deployment. Then I'll maybe highlight some few challenges. Then I'll have a conclusion of today. Then we'll have questions and answers. So briefly about EPRA. We are the single sector energy regulator in Kenya. And what we do, we call it the technical and economic regulation of the electricity, petroleum, and renewable energy subsectors in Kenya. That involves development of regulations, standards, and codes, licensing operators, approval of tariffs for the regulated services, and then we also deal with consumer protection and complaints or disputes in the sector. But because today we'll be talking mostly about renewable energy, let me just go in a bit in depth and tell you what REA does about the electricity subsector, where renewable energy falls in. This is the organization of the electric power subsector in Kenya. We have the Ministry of Energy, which deals with policy. Then we have got the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. And you see from that chart, from the diagram, you can see our involvement with the various players. Like we have got the generation segment, we have the transmission, we have the distribution, then we have the retail segment. That's where the consumers are of electricity. And you see that we issue and enforce license requirements for all the players. Maybe if you're a generator like Kengen, we have the ones who have issued them with a license, the independent power producers. Then you come also to the transmission where we have Ketraco and we have Kenya Power. These are also our licensees, so we license them and we give them license conditions under which they operate. Then we have got Kenya Power. And Kenya Power is playing a very key role in this kind of organization because they are now, we call it the single buyer model in Kenya. So all the electricity generated from the Kenyan and from the IPPs is sold to the consumers through Kenya Power and Lighting. That means all the generators have a power purchase agreement with Kenya Power and Lighting, be it Kenyan and be all the independent power producers. And these PPAs are approved by the EPRA. I think people mostly know EPRA for the wrong reason. That is on 14th every month, we pronounce your fuel prices. And that's what people have really known us for, which is not the case. We do a lot much more. That's why I wanted to bring this one in. And also Kenya Power and Lighting charge consumers tariffs under the various categories. These tariffs are also approved by us. We call them the retail tariffs. So I think we do much more. We have also mini grids space, which has now been a bit liberalized, and we are getting the private sector players in the mini grids. we also license them and we also approve their tariffs as well. I think this chart just shows you the organization of the electric power subsector in Kenya. I think I don't want to dwell so much on it. That was just to introduce what we do as EPRA. So I'll come about our topic today. Renewable energy is the useful energy gotten from sources like the sunlight, the solar, wind, water, that's hydro, geothermal, biomass, and waste to energy. And I must say that Kenya has abundant solar energy because we are along the equator, and we have got very good wind regimes due to the tropical climate. Like Turkana windfield is one of the best, the one I've seen in this region and maybe worldwide, if I can say. Then East Africa Rift, that means along the Rift Valley, the system has a lot of geothermal potential of around 15,000 megawatts. That's what we have estimated it to be, of which Kenya boasts an estimated 10,000 megawatts of that. So you are just seeing how rich we are in geothermal, and I mentioned the solar and the wind. So when you talk about deployment, adoption of renewable energy, I think we don't have an excuse as a country why we should not adopt renewable energy to meet our energy needs. Most of that renewable energy is sustainable, and also is very friendly to the environment, and also the effects, and also the cost nowadays have come down. So I think as a country, we must go the renewable energy. So from now, I'll give you the history or maybe how we have done it as a government. And I'll start with hydro. Hydro is where we started. I think one of our first hydro power stations was Kindaroma. It was developed in 1968, and it was first 40 megawatts. And this was maybe after some very, very small mini hydros which were spread across the country. But the biggest power generator, which was hydro, was the Kindaroma Dam, done in 1968, 40 megawatts. Then between 2007 and 2013, the power station underwent rehabilitation and upgrade, which increased its installed capacity from the 40, which was developed in 1968, to 72 megawatts. And currently, at least, we have 826 megawatts of grid-connected hydroelectric power. Most of them are along the what we call the Tana Cascade, but you people are also aware of the Takwel. We are aware of the Sendo Miriu, where we have got the Sendo Miriu power plant, and the Sangoro, which is a bit downstream, where we get around 60 megawatts. But the total generated capacity from the hydro in this country is 826, as we talk about. And this is all renewable because most of our hydropower plants are categorized under renewable energy because of their sizes. I must also mention that we have got many small hydros for own use. Like if you go to the tea estate in Kericho, the James Finlays and the Unilever, within that the expansive tea estates, they have got several small hydros. We call them mini hydros for generation, just to complement what they get from the grid. And also even the KTDA. Most of the KTDAs have really developed the small hydros for complementing their grid. Then I'll talk about geothermal, just briefly to give you an introduction. And we were actually in Africa, we are among the first to go into geothermal after getting the technology from the leaders in it. And the Olkaria 1 power station was the first in Africa, and it was done in 1881, with a generation capacity of 15 megawatts. Then two more similar turbines in 1982 and 1985, bringing the total generation capacity to 45 megawatts. That just shows you how we are moved in. So we started with a small capacity of turbine, 15 megawatts in 1981. Then 1982, we brought another turbine of 15 megawatts because we are doing a lot of exploration and studies on the geothermal fields in the Lokara Basin. Then 1985, we developed another one. From the success we got, we have now rolled out geothermal large scale, and currently we have in the country 828 megawatts of grid-connected geothermal power plant. Most of this is being done by Kenyan, which is our public utility generator. But we have also an IPP called All Power, which has developed also part of the capacity I've talked about, 826 megawatts. And the way I mentioned earlier on in my introduction, we have a lot of capacity of it, which is almost like 10,000 megawatts along the Olkaria Basin, that the Menengai field, the Buru fields, and we are doing a lot of exploration. The photo on the right just shows you how a geothermal power plant looks like. This is where we drill wells down into the earth, and you go very deep down. Some of them we go until 3.2 kilometers. Then from there, because of the volcanic activities, when it rains, the rain seeps down, then it meets the hot magma. That hot magma vaporizes that water which has seeped down into the earth. And this magma, this vaporized, the steam now is held between the rocks under very high temperatures and pressures. And this is what we call geothermal, because when you drill it, we use that steam to run our turbines. Yes, I think, and it's a very good technology, it's very clean technology, and it's very friendly to the environment. And what we have also done as a country, we have really improved on this. Initially, we used to do what nowadays we are doing, the kind of drilling technology has really improved. We do directional wells, unlike the initial ones where we used to drill like the oil well just going deep down. Vertically, nowadays we do in the short-term wells. And also the kind of technologies of geothermal power plants are also different. We have got the binary, they have the flash type, and like when I mentioned the one for the oil power, they're using a different technology, and we're just trying to compare and see which is more user-friendly and which is more efficient. And I think this is an area where I think Kenya is leading in Africa. I'll talk about the wind power. Wind power is a place where I think I mentioned to you that we have the tropical, and we have got one of the best wind regimes in this region. And our wind power development also started long ago. It's not just now. We started the Ngong Hill Power Station in 1993 with 2 small wind turbines donated to us by the government of Belgium. The installation of the new hardware led to a second commissioning in 2009 with a capacity of 5.1 megawatts. And Ngong now we have the Ngong, the Kenyan. We are getting 26 megawatts of power from there. And then we came up with Electrocana, which we commissioned in July 2019. And this is the biggest, I think, wind power plant in Africa with 310 megawatts, 365 turbines. And the photo on the right just shows you those turbines in the Electrocana field. And currently, as I can probably mention, is that we are also commissioning one in Ngong Hills called Kipeto, which is 100 megawatts. So our total installed capacity in the country of wind is currently standing at 436 megawatts. That is grid connected. I'll go to solar. And solar, and the way I mentioned, because we are blessed because we are along the equator and we have got very good radiations of solar. And even the duration, I think some of the leading players in the solar deployment, like Germany, are not much blessed like us, where we have a lot of time for the solar, for the sunlight. That means almost like 8 to 9 hours in a day, constant for throughout the year. Some of them, they really have shorter durations. So we developed our first solar plant, which is Garissa Solar Power Plant, which was done by government investment through REREC. That means Rural and Renewable Energy Corporation. And it is 50 megawatt peak. Currently, this project is contributing about 2% of the national energy mix. And then I must mention that we have got very many small power plants for own use, like Kappa Oil Industries along Mombasa Road. They did 1.5 megawatts licensed by us, and they have just approached us, so they want to increase that capacity to 2.5 megawatts. And there are several others spread across the country as well. I hope you people are just noting down any questions, then we'll handle them. But if you feel that you need to stop me just to clarify anything, then you are free to do that. You know, when you're talking like this virtual conference, sometimes you are wondering whether you're talking to yourself, but I hope you people are listening to me. I'm now go to biomass, and I combine this one with the waste to energy. And the first biomass plant we had was Mumias, which was designed for 35 megawatts. Only 26 megawatts was meant to be for sale to Kenya Power Lighting through a PPA, which was approved by the commission or the authority where I am. That time it was Rural Commission, but now this is your authority. And then the next one we have got Biojoule in George Farm in Naivasha. The installed capacity is 2.8 megawatts, and out of which 2 megawatts is for sale to Kenya Power Lighting through a PPA. The plant also, I must say, is the largest in Africa from that technology. About the most sugar factories in Kenya also are producing power for own use from bagasse, which is similar technology as Mumias. But currently, I'm sad to mention that Mumias is not generating now to the grid because of the challenges you people know. I hope most of you are Kenyans. You know the challenges which Mumias as an organization has gone through. But this challenge is also not only unique to Mumias. I think it's unique to the sugar sector. It is almost throughout the sugar sector in Kenya. Like we know all our sugar factories have got some challenges. And also, I must say that we don't have municipal or industrial and domestic waste to energy power plant in Kenya. This is a place where I think we are lagging behind, and we can do something. And that's why when I share with you people, as professionals in this line, we can see where the opportunities are. I must also mention that we have got many small biomass and biogas for own use. Like in several schools, we have the biogas power plants, mostly for producing biogas for cooking and all that. And I think this is a good way in promoting renewable energy deployment in the country. I want to talk about something which I'm also very excited about, electric mobility. And I must mention that there was a study, a pilot, done by the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, and we have involved within as a regulator, and also it involved the county government of Kisumu and several players because we are piloting electric motorcycles in Kenya. And we did a launch at Karura Forest on 22nd of March, 2021. And I must tell you, those bicycles are very effective, very user-friendly, no noise, and no pollution to the environment. I think I must say that electric vehicles are environmentally friendly, no emissions and no noise, and more efficient than in internal combustion engines. And I think from the pilot which we are doing now, I think that day we rolled out several motorbikes. I think they were being used by the Kisumu County and the Karura Forest Guards. And you just want to see how they'll perform. One thing I must say that the infrastructure like for charging is what we are now working on, and Kenya Power Lighting is part of that project so that we can roll out the infrastructure for charging. And those electric cars, I know there are several electric cars. Even personally, I want to drive. I remember one time I was in Germany and I had an opportunity to drive an electric car, and I tell you it is fantastic. So very much power, no noise, and no emissions. So I think if we talk about renewable energy deployment, we cannot forget to talk about electric mobility in Kenya. So I want to tell you about our current installed capacity in the electric power sector. And the total we are at 2,919 megawatts. And the installed capacity is distributed as shown in the chart. Geothermal contributes 28% of the installed capacity, hydro 28%, solar is 2%, biomass is just 1%, then wind is 15%. Then we have got the thermal, which is gas turbine, is 2%. Then we have got the thermal medium speed diesel, 26%. So this was now our installed capacity. But I must say that out of this, if you analyze it, you find that 73% of the installed capacity is renewable. That means you are we are really moving towards renewable energy deployment in this country, and we are proud of it as a government, and we are really encouraging even. That's why we came up with the promotion of the IPPs to come in, because we saw that the generation segment investment could be done by even private players, and I must say that we have a lot of people waiting the pipeline with solar power plants to come in. Wind, I told you, we are commissioning this time Kipeto. There are several, you have seen them in even the newspapers. And I think as a country, we must say that we are leader in this region in renewable energy deployment for meeting our energy needs, mostly in the electricity segment. Then when I talk about how the energy contribution, that means, okay, those are the installed capacity, that means the machines we are put in, but how do we use those machines to meet our energy needs per day? I picked a typical day, that is 21st of March, 2021. How was the system being run in Kenya? And you see that from the way the system was run that day, geothermal was contributing 43% of our energy need. Hydro was contributing 29%. Solar was contributing 1%. Wind was contributing 26%. And thermal was contributing only 1%. It just tells you that in deployment of our installed capacity to meet our energy needs, and that day the energy need was 30,068 megawatt hours for that whole day. It tells you that we are using mostly the renewable energy to meet our energy needs. Thermal, we use them from what we call peaking plants. What are peaking plants? Like geothermal, we run them as baseload. That means a geothermal plant, by the time you start it, you don't stop it, it runs, so it peaks the baseload. Then hydro comes to do what's called regulation. That means, hydro can ramp up and down. Geothermal does not have that capability to ramp up and down, but the hydro has got that capability. So, wind comes and wind can be fluctuating, likewise for solar. So hydro comes in now to be used to provide what's called ancillary services, that is ramping up and down so that the systems remain reliable. But the thermal power plants use them in the evening to pick up during the peak loads so that at least we meet our energy demand at any time. So I think I must say I'm very proud from what I've seen, because I joined the sector in 1993, and the transition, how we have moved from 1993 until today, I think we are moving towards renewable energy, and we are using less of the harmful fossil fuel-based kind of generation. I want to talk about off-grid, because off-grid is one thing which is very key. In this country, as we are aware, our grid actually followed mostly when we are protectorate. I think the British government developed a railway station from all the way from the coast in Mombasa through Nairobi to Kisumu. And likewise, our grid tended to fall along that line. So most of the country, like the north and northeastern part of Kenya, the grid actually, I remember grid arrived in Garissa, which is the biggest settlement in northeastern Kenya, just in 2016, 2017. That's when the grid arrived there. Initially, they were on mini grids. So off-grid is where we are now supplying those out from far areas from the grid with mini grids. And I think the mini grids we have been categorized into community, we are targeting community facilities, enterprises, and households. And they're also for standalone solar systems and also cooking solutions for households. Then we have got standalone solar systems and solar water pumps for community facilities, like the northern part of this country. They are mostly pastoralists, and they really rely on the solar water pumps to give water to their livestock. Then the implementation and support and capacity building for those mini grids. And there's what we call the Kenya Off-Grid Solar Access Project, COSAP, and this is targeting 14 underserved counties in that region I've talked about. So this is a government initiative because we know that we had promised that we'll acquire universal access by 2022, but we found that that target was so much ambitious and we had to bring private sector involvement. because as government alone, we could not achieve this. And this is why we came with this COSA project. This COSA project is being implemented by government and the private sector through the PPP. So a lot of mini grids nowadays, actually, the ones you have licensed as a regulator are also privately owned and privately operated. Just to note, all previous mini grids were developed by the Ministry of Energy, OREREC. They have also been retrofitted with the solar generation because of the deployment of the solar. I think government is very serious about using solar to meet our energy needs. The initial power plant, like the ones which were in Mandera, the Lamu one, we have decommissioned it, called Lamu now, the grid is there. Karisa one, we have decommissioned it. But all those old ones were only diesel-based. But even where now we still have diesel-based ones like Masabit, Wajir, we have retrofitted them with solar. Then I'd like to talk about this, our focus in early deployment as a country. And this is where maybe it answers some questions where people ask, why do we do even interconnections with our neighbors? Like when we are doing the line going to Ethiopia, people are asking, why should we do a line to Ethiopia? But Ethiopia has a lot of hydro potential. In Kenya, we are almost exhausting hydro potential. So the regional interconnections, we are focusing on them so that we also use economies of scale and also rely on the resources from our neighbors so that we enhance our early deployment in the country. And when we are doing the early deployment, the main focus is on adequate power to meet our energy needs. That means to drive our industries for domestic use, for commercial use, and also we are looking at affordability. I think affordability is a key issue. We cannot ignore it because when the power is not fairly affordable, that means let me talk about fair pricing, but when it's not affordable, then you find that industries are shifting maybe to Ethiopia or to other countries. So as we enrich our energy mix, we are doing it so that we lower down the cost, then it becomes affordable to the economy. Then power reliability is another issue. In fact, some people have been asking, why do we still have a line between us and Uganda? And you know that, like, if you go to Europe, you find that Europe is interconnected. And I can give you an analogy of a small plane flying and a big plane. You find the big planes are more stable. And that's why you find the power systems in Europe are very much robust and they can withstand a lot of shock. And that's why currently we are doing a bit of those regional connections also to enhance our reliability and stability of the system. Like that anytime we have a problem, sometimes we affect our neighbors, Uganda, because their system is smaller than ours. But now we are doing a line connecting us with our neighbor to the south, Tanzania, which will go until the South African power pool. We are doing now a line, although it's a DC line, connecting us to our neighbor to the north, Ethiopia. And we want to do another line so that we have a regional market also, so that we also tackle the issue of affordability and also the reliability and stability issue. Sustainability is very key, and this is why we are talking about deployment of renewable energy technologies, which are friendly to the environment and also can mitigate against the climate change. Climate change is a big issue, and as a government and as a country, we are also committed to the Kyoto Protocol, and we also committed to the COP26, where we have made commitments as government to really reduce our CO2 emissions. Yes, thank you. I think I'll leave more time for questions and answers, and that's why I'm almost finishing. I think I've only 2 more slides. Let me talk about some challenges in early deployment in Kenya. The first challenge is sparsely deployed population in the rural areas. So no economies of scale for the mini grid investments. We have found this when we have been licensing mini grids, like now, the ones you have licensed in Turkana area, the ones you have licensed in Marsabit. There's a place called Dukana. Dukana is almost at our border with Ethiopia in the Marsabit County. And you go there and you find that people stay very much far apart. So even having them connected with the mini grid becomes a very big kind of challenge in terms of mini grid investment. And I think this one area we are really trying to work on to see how to mitigate against that. Then affordability. I think I'll not tired to mention this, ability to pay cost-reflective tariffs by the end users in the mini grids and standalone home and home systems. This is key because you see that the people in the interconnected grid, they have got various sources of energy. Like now I'm talking about the geothermal, which is very cheap. We have got the wind, we have got the solar, and then if you check that energy mix is very rich, and that means the per unit cost comes down. But when you go to the mini grids now, which are maybe they are relying mostly on solar, hybrid with diesel, then you find that the cost there now, the per unit costs are higher. And as a regulator, I think most of if you want to bring in the private sector to invest, then you must give them cost-reflective tariffs. Otherwise, subsidies sometimes are not sustainable in the long end, but maybe I'll leave. Maybe you can discuss that during the question and answer session. There are talk of lack of a policy on how to pass tariff subsidy for privately owned mini grids. Okay, let me just expand on this. We find that the mini grids which were developed by government funding and our development partner funding, and being operated by Kenya Power Lighting in areas like Marsabit, Wajir, and Turkana, and all those, you find that there's some kind of cross subsidy. We don't have direct subsidy. May I be clear on this from the exchequer, but there's a cross subsidy between the consumers. That means consumers in the urban areas like the ones in Nairobi, me and yourself, most of you, we pay a bit higher than the per unit cost, so that even those people in those mini grids also pay the same. So that means them they'll be paying now below the actual cost, but us we are paying more, but now it balances. That's what we call cross subsidy. But for the privately owned mini grids, I think the policy is not yet there, where you can subsidize them, and we have a lot of challenges. People are saying, how do you subsidize private enterprises? But if you look at it, from my honest opinion, these people are doing a business to serve the people of Kenya. I think they are not just a private kind of people trying to make money. So I think that's why we are still discussing with government, and I hope that policy will come in soon. Then lack of infrastructure to support electric mobility. I talked about it in the country, because for us to roll maybe electric motor cars and electric motorcycles, we need to have that infrastructure, so that if you have your car, you can maybe when you are in the office, like where my office are in Upper Hill, you can have where you, when you go to the office, you have a charging facility we charge. And also in our estates, you can have, maybe when you come in the evening, you have your car charged. Then I think I talked about the problem with sugarcane production in Kenya, which has really hindered our generation from this kind of segment. I know countries like Brazil, countries like Mauritius are really exploiting their sugar industries, and they're really meeting a chunk of their energy needs through the bagasse and also the generation from the sugar mills. In Kenya, I think the problem is not even the generation, but the problem is the sugar production, and also the way the sugar sector is. So this is also hindering us from deploying that renewable energy technology to meet our energy needs. Then lack of investment on waste to energy. I mentioned to you, we have a lot of waste choking Nairobi, choking most our town centers, but I think we have not come up with this kind of technology where we can now convert this waste into energy. I remember when I was I think in Denmark or somewhere, and we found that they use even their district heating system is waste to energy, and there they also generate a lot of electricity. So I think as a country, we must also see how to invest in this. And that's why when I share with you as my professionals, I'm excited because I know you are people who can help us come up with this kind of solutions here. My last slide, just a brief conclusion. Government of Kenya is committed to increasing access to modern energy and will use renewable energy solutions as much as possible. Renewable energy accounts for 73% of total installed capacity, electricity generation capacity in this country. In terms of final electricity generation, and this part, over 90% is from renewable energy sources, which I say that we are very proud of, because it's now been deviating from what we have used to have in before, where we are using mostly of the thermal power plants. Then development partners and the private sector are key partners in energy provision. So I know most of you come from the private sector. Please, can you come up and partner with us so that the solution we can they have in this country can come from you as well. So I request support from all our stakeholders to accelerate our energy provision and transition. That means we transition from the fossil-based to now we go to the renewable energy-based. With that, thank you so much for listening to me. I hope I was audible enough, and thank you. Now I can call for questions and answers. God bless. Hello, Chris. Hello.
Hello, did we lose him?
No, I just finished. That I'm thinking about you people. Were you listening to me? Because me, I've just finished my presentation. Yeah.
Yes, very much.
Of course, we were listening.
That's what I'm saying. I've opened the floor to questions and answers and discussions. Like, well, I think to me, it's more discussion which can bring in more interesting issues than what I've just presented here. Mine was just an overview.
I have a question. This is excellent with regards to renewables, but what is being done to replace the base load? You know, the ones that are supplying the power when there is high demand and biomass and solar and wind are not there. Maybe it's cloudy, maybe it's very dry, there's no wind. So I'm more concerned about the base load, the one that we expect 24/7. Maybe you could say a few words about that?
Okay, thank you. I've noted the question. Basically, I can take three, then I can answer them at once. Maybe I can take them in batches of three.
Good afternoon. Hello, engineer. This is Sally, and I have a question regarding e-mobility and the charging points. So what are some of the existing proposals in developing charging points, especially when you look at the off-grid areas? Thank you.
Thank you for that question about e-mobility.
Hello, engineer. My name is Charles.
Yes, Charles.
My question relates to an area you mentioned, I think at the tail end, on the climate change and carbon reduction. Is there anything being done around R22 gas refrigerant, the refrigerants that we use in the air conditioning? I know some are being phased out. I don't know what the plan is by April around that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, okay, Charles, for that question. Let me address those three questions. I think the first question was about baseload, and I must say that as a country, we have done well in developing geothermal. I don't want to go back to the percentage, but if you just check at my chart on our installed capacity, we are seeing that we have got 826 megawatts, 28 megawatts from geothermal, and geothermal is baseload. And then hydro, so hydro can be used as baseload, but also I talked about it helping us with now, like wind is intermittent and solar. So hydro, that's what's called ramping up and down. That means when solar is going down or going up, then hydro can be easily shifted depending on the load. And we are doing a lot of work in geothermal. I think this is where I said we are leading in this country. A lot of work is going on in Menengai field because I think we don't want to develop more thermal power plants. The ones we have there, I think you people are aware that some of them, their PPAs are coming to a close. And when their PPAs are coming to a close, the government has made a decision that they will not renew those PPAs because we want to exhaust our geothermal resource, which we have got almost 10,000 megawatts. We have only done less than 1,000 megawatts. That is 828 megawatts. And a lot of work is going on in a Buru field, in Olkaria field, in Menengai field. And this is why government even created GDC. Geothermal, the most great thing about geothermal is exploration, and there are a lot of risk involved in that. And for the government to do what's called de-risking the project, because private sector found it very difficult to come and start doing exploration because there's some cost. And this is why government is now using our government and the development partner funding to fund GDC to do the exploration. Then by the time now they have hit the steam and they have declared the capacity, then now we can now bid them for private sector IPPs to come in and do the power plants. The same is being done by Kengen. I think Kengen is doing very well. Kengen is still leading in doing the exploration along the Olkaria field. They are doing a lot of their own. In fact, I must mention that now we are offering the expertise. As I talk today, Kengen is consulting for Djibouti and for Ethiopia on their fields also. So you see, when you develop technology, then you can also export it. So the question was very good about what we are doing about the base load, and I must tell you that we don't have any intention as government to increase our base load through the fossil fuel based ones. We want to exhaust our geothermal. There was, I thought maybe somebody was asking about the coal power plant, or I don't want to talk about it, but just to mention, those are the things even during our engagement about the COP26 and all that, you see that coal power plant, we are almost changing the technology because we felt it's not good for us. So we want to use more of the renewable energy. I'll go to the e-mobility. It was a very good question, I think, from Anne. I think that question is very good. E-mobility, and I think there's something I saw about Ghana, how Ghana is doing it, and Ghana, they have got solar panels which are even mobile, and those solar panels are used for charging the motorcycles. So that means you can have a solar panel just maybe on a kiosk, and that it can charge the motorcycles as they wait for their customers. And also even you put stages, like I've seen what they are doing. They have where the stage for the motorcycles as they wait for their customers. Then on the roofs of those of the stage, their solar panels are deployed there. Then there's a charging system available. I think that's why I'm saying we need to partner with the private sector to do this, because even the deployment of electric cars in Kenya, I think the infrastructure for charging, we must look at it. We have discussed with Kenya Power and Lighting, and Kenya Power and Lighting has got offices almost in most of our major administrative centers. And that's why when we are doing this piloting with UNEP, we looked in Kenya Power because those their offices is very easy. They can deploy them as charging centers. And this is something we are working on. So I think very soon we may roll out the charging centers in the Kenya Power Lighting offices where they are, even in the off-grid areas. And also, even I talked about the private mini grids, where they have got now their solar power plants and supplying that mini grid, then we can also have a charging station there. Thank you for that question. It's a very good one. About from Charles about the refrigeration, I know that's a big issue, and I think we started by standards. I think I must mention to you that nowadays, for you to bring in any refrigerator from this country, they must be cleared by us as EPRA. I didn't talk about that, but that's one thing we do. So we develop standards for refrigerators which come to this country through Kenya Bureau standards, and as a regulator, we are really enforcing this. We don't want to bring things or technology which are now taking us back to where we are moving from. And maybe this is an area we are really trying to control so that people don't dump in old technologies which will come and still cheat us on what we are trying to run away from. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Joseph, for that wonderful session. So my question was, what are you currently doing to encourage and increase more partnership with the private sector?
Just come up again. I lost you somehow.
Okay, so my question is, what are you currently doing to increase the number of partnership and to encourage the private sector on this?
Okay, thank you. Private sector participation. Yeah, thank you. I picked that. Okay, can we go to the next one so that I can take three maybe and we do them at once?
I also see some questions on our chat. So maybe I can read the questions for you.
Yes, please read them. I picked one, this private sector participation. Yeah, what are we doing as government? Then
Yeah, so there is a question, is green buildings an new concept for making our buildings more efficient? That is from Mr. Ram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the other ones were just appreciating the session. Maybe others can ask by unmuting and asking them.
Okay, maybe as they prepare to ask, I can address this too. I think the private sector participation, that's why you see at the National Treasury, the government has formed what's called a PPP department, which is now dealing with, because you see, for private sector to invest in things like electric power subsector, I think we need to work on the risk. Remember, like even when the IPPs came, that's why the first IPPs who came, and they are mostly fossil based, their contracts are not as good as the contracts we are now doing currently because of the risks which was seen to be in the economy. So what the Treasury has done is to form the PPP, and remember most of all those PPAs the investors used to ask for sovereign guarantee or letters of support from the government because they are seeing the risk were high. So what they are doing as a government is to reduce the risk levels of investments in the electric power subsector and also in the country generally, so that private sector can see it as a less risk business to come and invest in maybe power generation, and also in mini grids. We have said like now most of the mini grids we have done actually, we have licensed almost 19 privately owned and operated mini grids, and before this we reached here, the issue was the risks involved, and we give them license for long term. So those are some of the things they are now requesting for, because if you give a license for a shorter term, then recruiting that investment makes it very expensive and the tariffs are becoming higher. So like we give them licenses for 20 years so that the investment is spread over a longer period. So government is doing a lot to de-risk investments so that we attract the private sector players. And that's why we are saying we have a lot of retirement benefit scheme funds maybe just being held. Can we release the funds so that we invest them in this economy, so that the economy becomes more vibrant? And we are there to listen, and we really do a lot of public sector participation and consultations. And this way, even today, when I was requested to come and talk on this, I didn't hesitate to offer myself to come and talk, because I think sometimes people don't understand what we do as government and the opportunities available. So private sector and government is working together on so many projects, and this is the norm actually, and this what in the countries we have developed, this is the way they have gone. So let private sector not sit back. I'll talk about green buildings, and this is okay. I sit in a committee also under the National Construction Authority, and green buildings actually is one thing we are promoting in this country because we know that's the way to go. Just to say that putting an additional 1 megawatt of electricity is more expensive than saving it. Like, sometimes people will say that I was presenting in one of the international fora, and people asking me, your installed capacity is only below 3,000 megawatts. What are you talking about? And you people are almost like 50 million Kenyans. What are you using energy for? They don't understand. 50 million people, and they got only like the installed capacity is less than 3,000 megawatts because of the kind of energy usage. So conservation is one thing key we must do also as a country, so that we conserve, because to bring one more power plant just for 1 megawatt is very expensive than to energy efficiency. And that's one thing I must say. Energy efficient buildings is the way to go. And this one, even we have involved the Architecture Association of Kenya, so that as we do our designs for the buildings, let them be green buildings. And those even in factories. That's why we came up with the energy management regulations of 2012. You can see them on our website, where we even require industrial and commercial buildings to undertake energy efficiency measures. Thank you.
Hello, Doc. I have a question. I'm Ben from IEEE Moi. So
yes, Ben, just speak louder a bit. You're a bit low.
Okay, I wanted to know what's the current impact of line drop for renewable energy, that is cumulatively, and how will you assess that as opposed to the normal grid? Thanks.
Just repeat again, you're saying, what is there?
I'm saying, what is the current impact of line drop for renewable energy, and how will you assess that compared to the normal grid?
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other question here? Okay, then I can pick about that. I think renewable energy, when the renewable energy technologies came in, we had two issues at that time when we started deploying them, like the solar. I think the prices were a bit too high. And the way I talked, I was very honest in my discussion. As a regulator, affordability is a big issue. Before we approve a power plant to come on board into our other mini grid also, or into our interconnected system, I think we really check at all you must disclose to us your investment and how you want to also recoup your investment, and even all those, so that we make sure that the tariff we are proposing is fair and will be affordable to the economy. So initially, that's why you see, like solar, we took long before we could bring the first solar power plant, because I think the technology, when it came out, when it started being popular, I think the prices were still very high. Then also solar, is only available during the daytime. Then the storage technology now, if you now add solar plus storage, then the costs were a bit higher. That's why the deployment was a bit slagging behind, because we saw that if we had brought it, then it was going to raise our per unit cost of power in this country. And that's what we didn't want to go. But I'm very happy to report that now the solar prices are coming down, and they're really dropping down. And that's why you see we can have now solar at very competitive prices. Initially, when they came, you talk about 15 US cents, but now they're coming down. I've seen some even coming at 7.1 US cents, and still coming down. And that means they're becoming more competitive. Likewise to wind. Wind technology also started with very high, like I think Electrocana is at 9 point something US cents, but I think the current ones we are seeing now, we are coming up with a lower tariffs. And this is the way to go. And also technology development in the country, because sometimes you find that maintenance of those technology, okay, the solar power plants, when we deploy them, we insist that people must also have the technology available in this country, that maybe if there's an issue, we don't need to fly in expatriates from outside the country to come and sort out an issue. Like the way we saw with the Electrocana wind when it came, we are not ready with the technology experts in this country. And that's why we encourage the young engineers, the young experts to also come up in this field, that we can also be utilized locally, than maybe having people from outside helping us do servicing, which makes the technology a bit more expensive. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Hello, engineer. I have one more question.
Yes, who's speaking, please?
This is Charles.
Charles, how are you? Yes.
I'm fine. Sorry, I'm coming back again.
Yes.
My question is related to the renewables, the energy storage technologies.
Yes.
I know locally there are a few companies that are manufacturing or assembling lead acid batteries and related storage. I don't know what EPRA is doing, or if you have a plan of engaging the same companies to start developing alternatives like lithium and the others, so that they are also widely available for solar applications, wind and such. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question, Charles. Any other, or do we take that one?
Good afternoon, Dr. Okash.
You can just speak out loud a bit. I can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Nigel. I'm from University of Nairobi. I'm currently a fourth year student completing this year. So I'm planning to do my master's on renewable energy right away. And I was just asking for any advice that you would have, because I know you were at this moment some years back. So is there anything that you could say to your younger self from the perspective that you have now? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me take those two. I can start with the one from Charles first about the technology deployment. And in fact, I mentioned it even in my presentation that the only way to go, and I think this one we learned from India, that I think I was among the Kenyans who went to study how India really rolled out their wind power plants, and their strength was in technology transfer. So that even manufacturing of parts, so that I think India is, the way the economy is, they believe in learning, but also now learning how to do it themselves, not that they rely on the source forever. So I think, and we have tried this, even like now solar modules are being produced in a factory in Naivasha. I think maybe those people who have been there can know. And even the production of the batteries and the lithium batteries and all this. And that's why we are saying, as government, we cannot start doing this ourselves, but we can only partner with the private sector. And the government is already doing a lot. And I must say that opening up for private sector to invest in the various segments of the economy is one thing which the government has done and is continuing to do. And we will give a lot of opportunity to the investors to come and discuss with us and tell us if there are any challenges they feel, maybe something we have done better, because we know we are an evolving economy. We are ready to learn and also to see how to incorporate the private sector investors. So I think this was one thing we always preach, and I think the time I was part of the Kenya team which went to just to talk to our investors in Australia, and we talked about this, and we told them, please, like Australia is one of the countries which is leading in the sugar industry to produce electricity. So we are telling them, can you come and invest, see what we are not doing right so that we can help us? Yeah, so I think we through you people, let's partner together and let's engage, because I know you people come from the private sector, and see what we can do in the various segments of the economy to invest, more so in the solar and the renewable energy segment. There are a lot of opportunities, and the technology is one of them. Because we don't need to bring somebody, like I remember, like Vestas, they are flying in maybe engineers to come and service the power plants, the turbines. So when the turbines have a problem, why can Kenyans do it? I think Kenyans, we are very capable people, and we just maybe exposure and learning and having that knowledge and the confidence. And that brings me to the question of Nigel, who was talking about the studies. I think renewable energy is the way to go. There are a lot of opportunities, and I think it's a very good area to maybe to focus on in your study, like maybe the solar is a lot of things like storage, solar storage, and what is going on in that segment, what can be done to make it more affordable. Where I told you affordability is key to us, and you agree with me. We cannot deploy a technology which is very expensive because the economy may not be able to take it. So those are a lot of things that even the wind technology, we are not yet there. I told you about the India. You can read about what India has done and what can we do in Kenya now so that we also replicate the same. Thank you.
Hello, sir. So my question
Who's speaking, please?
Sir,
Who's speaking?
Sir,
Prachini, you are so low. Please just come, maybe talk aloud a bit.
Sir, so my question is regarding renewable energy. So what should the energy policy be with regards to renewable energy?
Okay, thank you. I've got your question about energy policy. Okay, thank you. I'll tackle that. Okay, maybe talk that way. I think even our time is almost over. I think we are going over time. I think if you check out the energy policy, which is developed in 2015, renewable energy has been given a lot of focus. And I think the way I say that the government focus is to move away from the fossil-based kind of energy solutions to renewable energy. And that's why our energy policy of 2015, which was renewed in 2017, and also which led to the Energy Act of 2019, is really focusing on the renewable energy technologies. And that is the focus of government, and we are really trying to now operationalize the policy and also operationalize the regulation of the Energy Act of 2019, so that at least we remain the leaders in the deployment of renewable energy in this part of the world. Thank you so much, and over to Chris, I think, and thank you all the participants for listening to me, and thank you for your questions. I've really enjoyed. On the last slide, there is my email address. If there are any further questions and interaction, then you are I'll be more than happy to engage with any of you. Thank you, and God bless.
Okay, thank you, sir. Hope I'm audible. Thank you very much for that wonderful session. We are very honored for you agreeing to give us this talk for today. So I would like to welcome Sally is the chair for Kenya Press. So maybe you can say a word, then you can have a photo that will file in our press website for future reference. And also you have recorded the session. You can also get the recording. I'll share the recording to your emails. So maybe Sally, you can say something, then you can have the group photo and you can close the meeting.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Engineer Okech, as well for the wonderful session this afternoon. And just to appreciate everyone who joined us this afternoon for the PES Day webinar series that we are having as PES Kenya and also within the Region 8, and also encouraging section collaboration across Region 10 as well. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope that we'll keep engaging as PES Kenya. In case anyone has any topic of interest that you'd want us to bring speakers to feature about, you can reach out to us through Chris, myself, or even through our email address, and we'll be glad to look out for the speakers to engage us further and to enlighten us. Thank you, and do have a wonderful afternoon.
Okay,
thank you
very much. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Maybe we can have a minute where we can, if your camera is okay, you can maybe start your video and maybe you can take a video of that and take a screenshot for future reference. Thank you very much for those who are starting. Let me take a screenshot and you can choose. So it seems my video, my camera is not working, so maybe I'll took it like that. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Joseph Okech. Thank you. We are very glad for you having the session with us this evening. And thank you very much for who joined. We are very excited for seeing many people appreciate our session. So my name is Chris Murimi. I am the Best Day Kenya ambassador, and I'm very honored at the seeing you in these sessions that we are hosting. Thank you very much, and have a great evening from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for you, and have a good day. You can leave the meeting at your own pressure. Asanteni sana.
Thank you once again, all, and it was lovely sharing with you.
Thank you. Bye.
Welcome.